Hey guys, so I am starting a new series. Basically, what it means to be a writer. I get a lot of questions about writing, and so I thought that I'd make some videos and see if any of the information is helpful. I'm going to do 12 episodes at first because these 12 questions jumped out at me. Then I'll probably take a break and do something else for a little bit, and then we'll do another season of 12 episodes, that kind of thing. So if you stumble across this video or you find something helpful or you have another question that you're just wondering about, send it to me. And when I do another season, I'll try to include it. Um, yeah. So yeah, hopefully some of this stuff helps. That being said, our first episode, what it means to be a writer. Um, Before I really jump into it, I want to do a little disclaimer. So I wrote down my disclaimer, so I'm just going to read it to you. Everything that I'm going to say in this video is my opinion on things based on research and experience. If you disagree with me, that is fine, and we can talk about it if you're willing to buy me a bottle of wine, but like, just kidding. So, regardless, it's okay if you don't agree with me on things. You can express your opinions. You don't have to express your opinions. These are just my opinions, and I'm sharing them. Hopefully, some of it helps. All right, so let's get into it. The first question that I'm going to address is literally, what does it mean to be a writer? I think that this is a question that a lot of people honestly have. Even some writers maybe don't know the answer to this question. So I really want to like discuss this. It is something that I've spent a lot of time contemplating, like literally for years along my personal writer journey. I spent thinking about this question. In my opinion, there are a few different types of writers, or people in general. Um, Someone who gets paid for writing, someone who writes as a hobby, someone who has never ever been published, someone who self-published, and someone who has been published through a publishing company. Of these types, what all of them have in common is that they all enjoy writing. They make time for it. It's a part of who they are. It's a part of their daily lives. All of these people, in my opinion, are writers. Someone out there may disagree with me, um, because sometimes they think that you have to be published by a legitimate publishing company in order to be considered a writer. However, here's my example to support my opinion. Van Gogh is considered to be one of the greatest artists of his time. Yet in his living years, he was barely able to sell a single painting. He made no money off of his work, but he was still an artist, and he considered himself to be an artist. There's a story that goes around that talks about how he tried to sell a painting for a glass of beer. Like, nobody wanted his work. And yet now he's got museums that are dedicated to him and him alone. Maybe you aren't going to make money like J.K. Rowling, but if you write, then you're a writer. Honestly, some of my favorite writers were people who were looked down on for writing in their own time. Of course, then I also have some favorite writers that are renowned and considered some of the best writers of their time. As I said before, this title of writer, it was something that I wrestled with for a long time. I decided very young that I was going to be a writer one day. Yet as I got older and spent more time writing, I just couldn't figure out when I would actually become a writer, because I've never been published by a publishing company. I am self-published. Even after I went through the steps to publish my first book, um, yeah, I told myself it was fun, but I didn't really think it counted. And I decided that I wasn't really a writer, because I had believed for the longest time that in order to have earned that title, I needed to be recognized by a publishing company. Um, it was a few years later, talking to a really good friend of mine, that it occurred to me that publishing companies are actually, relatively speaking, a pretty new concept. They're really only a few hundred years old. And on top of that, one of the reasons why I decided to self-publish in the first place was because I was tired of being rejected by publishing companies, telling me that they enjoyed my book, that it was a good read, but it wasn't what they were in the market for at that time, and that I should keep trying for a later date. Um, Basically, publishing companies came along to figure out like what was popular and what they could streamline. And then here I am being told that they don't think they can streamline my book. And so instead of the entire world telling me no, I've got one person making that decision for a whole group of people. So basically, I was not considering myself to be a writer because someone else was telling me that my book, it was good, but it wasn't what they were in the mood for at that moment. So I'm not a writer because somebody's just not in the mood for it. That felt limiting. It's like if I go to the store for chocolate cookies, but I leave the frosted animal cookies at the store, does that mean that the frosted animal cookies are not really cookies? No, it does not. So I decided I'm a writer and I self-published my book because I was tired of other people telling me no, and basically living by their margins. I like to make my own margins. I don't want to live by somebody else's standard of expectation. So self-publishing, I think, opened an entirely new world for me. So basically, just like hundreds of years ago, so my new understanding of writers was, and now is, if you write, then you are a writer. For you, for your readers, for publishing companies, whoever you write for, if you write, then you're a writer. It's that simple. Just like hundreds of years ago when publishing companies came about, the method for writing is rapidly changing. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Charles Dickens used to publish their stories in magazines, monthly, weekly subscriptions. So you could read the story a little at a time, much like we do now with TV shows or webtoons if you read it, or Patreon or other forms of subscription. Benjamin Franklin would write just like random fictional articles into his brother's newspaper. He had the access and he didn't allow himself to be limited. Creepypasta, Reddit, other wikis and platforms that exist for people to share their personal works, all of these things. There are so many options out there for writers. It is really about how you want to make your writing work for you and what you're trying to get out of your writing on top of that. So I personally have decided to self-publish. I've never liked rejection or being told no when I want something. I know that my writing may not be the best in the whole world. I'm not working on the next great American novel, but it makes me happy. And the audience and readers that I have seem to really like it. And so that's what I work for, my happiness and their happiness. Um, that's enough for me. So this is the corner that works for me. And my advice to upcoming writers is to find the corner that works for you and write, always write, never stop writing. Yeah. Okay. I'll see you next week.